speaking of Robert Downey Jr., I just want to thank him for playing as Iron Man because from what I heard, there were a couple of people who were, in line to play Iron Man.
Eddie Murphy.
Right. Seriously? Eddie Murphy?
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised, but also I'd be so mad. I got you. Hey, Super Agile Bros Nation. You already know what it is. It's your boy, Bradston. It's so good to see, hear, or just be around you guys. So today, you already know who's in the building. We got the boy, Kyle. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, man. Happy to be here, too.
Cool. And, of course, we got the Steve-ado himself. Mr. Steve, what's going on with your brother?
Hello.
Steve-ado.
Indeed. Steve-ado. That's how you say it. That's how you pronounce it.
That's the Puerto Rican
Ukrainian
pronunciation.
Ukrainian?
The Puerto Rican pronunciation.
Puerto Rican.
So, yeah, man. I mean, it's been, I feel like a good Super Agile Bros week for us. A lot of things have been going on our end. Probably the most incredible thing, the thing we're the most proud of, or at least I'm happy, at least it's working, is we got our Discord channel, Discord server finally working. So we got some people in there, some special invites, so it's good to have it going. It's gonna be cool to see it grow, and hopefully over time we'll be able to open up more and more to more people and make this Super Agile Bros party. So yeah, good stuff. So shout out to all the people in Super Agile Bros Discord. But let's go ahead and get it started for today. This is going to be a cool one. Today, we're going to be talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Got to give shout out to the boy Kyle for coming up with this idea because I feel like it's going to be a good conversation. We're talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and kind of what has made it different than maybe all the other superhero movies before it. And we're just going to get deep. So I don't necessarily feel like we need to say spoiler alert, but we're just going to talk about all the Marvel movies and all the Marvel stuff. So if you haven't watched stuff, listen at your own discretion, I guess you could say.
I haven't seen the second Thor movie or either Ant-Man, or what else have I not seen? I think I've seen most of everything else.
I haven't seen the Ant-Man movies either, and I have seen the second Thor, and you're not missing much.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Yeah.
But think of what it could have been.
Yeah, I feel like the only reason why I haven't seen the Ant-Man movies, and now I have no excuse, it's just that like when they first came out, I didn't see them in theaters just because, and then like I wasn't really like, I'm not really finna rent an Ant-Man movie. I don't know. It just seemed like the most random movie to me. Everybody told me it was good, yeah,
they were both very good.
What's the dude who plays Ant-Man? What's his name?
Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd. He got the sexiest man of the year or whatever, or something.
Did he really?
I think in 2021.
Oh, that was a vote.
Yeah.
I thought you were just saying that.
No. I just declared it. I was like, let me tell y'all something. Last year, Paul Rudd. I'm going to let you finish. No, but like.
This year, it's not Paul Rudd. Who is it this year, Brad? Who's the sexiest man?
Early front runner? I don't know.
Benedict Cumberbatch this year, baby.
Not Benedict. What's his name from The Witcher? Henry
Cavill.
Yeah. Is it Cavill? Cavill?
Superman.
I thought it was Cavill, but I guess I'd never heard it out loud.
Yeah.
He's been a couple of different beautiful superheroes. Man.
I feel like he could take that spot. But maybe because The Witcher came out last year. He'll get a lot of the press this year. So, yeah, man, I feel like
the second season of Witcher was very good.
It's very good. So, I'm voting Henry Cavill. Matter of fact, that's it.
Does Tom Holland count as a man, even though he plays children?
He's a boy. Him and Zendaya are children, like infinitely children.
Bro, she's gonna sneak up on you. One day they're both gonna go from children to being whole adults.
The world won't be ready, and their careers will
dominate
be over.
Everybody.
They're probably both like in their 40s. like secretly, like
they're
just
Keanu
like
Reeves children.
just never age. Just like, yeah, because Zendaya is actually in a TV show about her being in high school, and Zendaya is solidly in her 20s. Like, she's not
right now.
Yeah, I can't
What
remember.
show is it?
It's on Hulu. It's like it's apparently kind of depressing from what I keep hearing,
Love it.
but it's I keep seeing it on Hulu and like on different like placards for like streaming media. Like it's the show right now with Zendaya.
Oh wow!
And she's a high schooler. Like, she a grown woman, so hey, some people can do it. Matter of fact, my wife has been watching Veronica Mars. Every single person in that show is a grown person, but it's in high school. And she keeps on getting on me because every time I see somebody, I'm like, genuinely, I'll be like, oh, why is that person's mom at school? And she's like, no, that's a student. I'm like, oh. Like,
every day parent and teacher conference.
My wife has been watching. It's a show. One of my friends has Asperger's, and he posted about it on Facebook. And it's about 3 young adults who are like living by themselves for the first time, I think. And they're all on the spectrum for the autism spectrum. And it's just kind of like a family drama, just it has funny moments, it has sad, touching moments. But one of the characters is this girl who's apparently 26 because she says it a couple times. And her whole thing is she wants to be independent and like, be treated like an adult. This woman is apparently like 40 years old.
What?
Like in real life?
In real life, yeah. I was like,
playing
what? I can see. I definitely think she looks older than 26, but she plays the part well.
Was she was she one of those people who used to play high schoolers for most of her career and then finally was like, hey, you're a little bit too old? Like,
I don't know any of the actors except actually, that the guy, he's an old guy, kind of darkish skin, salt and pepper hair, usually has a short beard. He always plays like the wise father figure.
No.
I think he was like in an NCIS, one of those spin-off shows.
You said he's brown skin. Is he like black or is he like tan?
No,
is he
he's like tan.
Hispanic?
Maybe Hispanic. I don't know. He's like a tan looking skin complexion.
Okay. It's funny. Like, I feel like I have like 5 people in my head right now and I know none of their names. So I'd be no help in this discussion.
The first person that came to my mind was Ice-T, but I don't think it's him.
No, it's not
like,
Ice-T.
I feel like Ice-T, you would say Ice-T. Like, yeah. Well, I mean, Ice-T is a fatherly type figure now, Now. Kind of weird if you think about it.
How old is this show?
How old is it? I think it's very new. I don't know. I've never heard of it before.
Huh. Yeah.
Anyway.
I've never heard of this. Oh, and the show that Zendaya's in is Euphoria.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've heard the name. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it. Other than every time I see it, it's her face and it says Euphoria,
Of course it's her face.
Of course.
So
that's the face that they paid for.
It's like, you've all the monies. So, well, I don't want to talk about this yet, but I was just going to say, speaking of people getting paid for it in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Robert Downey Jr. in that show, like 100%, that paycheck.
Age of AI.
Yes, that paycheck cleared immediately because that man does not seem like he wants to be there at all.
He seemed okay the first couple of minutes, but I didn't get past that.
Yeah, like, so it's like that Robert Downey Jr. kind of quirky kind of style, and then you're like, your soul's not in this.
Is it part of the MCU?
Yes, because technically it was like in the Iron Man like
in the studio, right?
In the studio or whatever. I've only watched like 5 minutes of it, but I'm like, interesting. This is so strange. So I guess to get it started with MCU talk, what's y'all's take on the MCU in general? Like, what's your, not like a rating or anything, but more like, how do you feel about it? Like, overall, I'm assuming, just from knowing you guys in general, that you like it. Most of you've seen most of the movies, but like, what's been your take over the years of the MCU? Your general feel. Let's start with the Yam himself, Kyle.
Oh.
It is I, the Yam.
I'm sorry.
The Yam.
Let's talk to the Yam in the field.
My existence is pain.
Just pain.
So I first off, speaking of Robert Downey Jr., I just want to thank him for playing as Iron Man because from what I heard, there were a couple of people who were, in line to play Iron Man.
Okay.
Eddie Murphy.
Right. Seriously? Eddie Murphy?
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised, but also I'd be so mad. Like, hey, I'm Iron Man. I can't even do Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy plays Iron Man and Pepper Potts.
I got to. And Pepper Potts. Oh my goodness. The whole movie
of course,
Eddie.
he's Rhodey.
Eddie's everybody. He's Black Widow. He's Black Panther. Oh no.
He's Rhodey, of course.
No.
He's
he is
Agent Coulson.
The Eddie Murphy cinematic universe. Somehow the clumps would get in there. Dr. Little. Find out. Oh, they're Marvel superheroes. It would make perfect sense. Oh my gosh.
Black Panther.
Can we talk about the Doolittle cinematic universe? There's like 4 Dr. Doolittle movies.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Because it started with there was one like the 80s. Mm-hmm. And then why did
the giant seashell?
It was a TV show?
No, the giant conch shell, like a seashell.
Oh. I have not seen that one.
That's just the image I remember from one of these movies.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about how theoretically Coming to America, like that could actually be Wakanda. This is where Eddie Murphy came from or whatever. Zamunda. Like, give me a neighboring country to...
Eddie Murphy as Killmonger's dad?
The whole time. That's the plot twist.
You betrayed your king.
Yeah, so Killmonger was kidnapped and brought to...
Now I've got to watch Coming to America 2 to get the rest of the lore.
Get the rest of the lore.
Oh man, I heard it wasn't that good.
It's okay. It's a family, like... if you like Eddie Murphy, you'll like the movie, but it's not great. You know what I'm saying?
That's kind of par for the course of these Marvel spinoffs. They're okay, but you got to watch them so you don't miss anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I got to see what happens with the vibranium Coming to America
Hakeem. So Kyle, what's your take on the MCU? We went on.
So yeah, as I was saying, I'm thankful for Eddie Murphy playing Iron Man and just changing the name of superheroes in general, because there were tons of tries at superhero movies and a lot of them were okay, but it really just changed the game. And so
it's really incredible that like the Iron Man movies retroactively made the Hulk movies better.
Yeah.
And by bringing them into the universe like after the fact.
Hilarious. Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's so funny because, like, first of all, if you think about it, like, Iron Man, not to say that he's the most forgettable Marvel, like, character, but, like, as far as, like, names, like, if you think of, like, an average person knowing a Marvel superhero, it's going to be the Spider-Man, it's going to be the X-Men, it's going to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many more people. The Wolverines, what's the laser beam eye guy? I can't believe I'm forgetting his name.
Cyclops. So to your point about forgetting names, you're forgetting the name.
But even Cyclops or Jean Grey or any person, like, there's so many other people who you think of when you think of, like, Marvel, like, especially if you're like just a general person. So to start with Iron Man, the only reference I ever had to Iron Man was some fighting games where Iron Man was in it. And I was like, okay, I guess Iron Man's a person in the Marvel universe. I read a few comic books as a kid, but not many. So to me, honestly, when Iron Man first came out, I was like, this is a skip. I'm good. Like, there's no reason for me to watch this. I don't know how y'all felt about it, but
Pretty sure I saw it in theaters.
I think I did too. But what was the timeline? When did the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies come out? Sorry.
Which one is that? The second set?
The ones with Tobey Maguire.
No, the original.
Oh, that was like early 2000s.
Was that before Iron Man?
I'm sure it was before Iron Man.
Because I think Iron Man came out when I was in college.
2008 Iron Man came out.
Yeah, so I was in college, and I'm pretty sure all of the Spider-Man movies were finished at that point. Yeah, that first set, at least.
Yeah. So I think
The
Marvel
best set.
movies were in a good place for me. 'Cause I think I went and saw Iron Man in theaters too.
Yeah, I really don't remember a time before before Iron Man like took over. Like I know as a kid, I sometimes would see the Iron Man cartoon, and I was like, okay, whatever. It's not as good as the X-Men cartoon.
Oh, the
But
X-Men cartoon.
yeah, let's talk about that. But actually, let's not. Let's just skip it. But yeah, I mean, I think I was just so young, and I was so like unplugged from comic books in general that when I saw the Iron Man movie and it was so sick, like that was enough to put Iron Man like basically retroactively in my entire subconscious.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like Spider-Man movies never resonated to me as a Marvel movie, even though I knew he was in the Marvel, universe. I don't know. I feel like they just felt, it never felt like, because there's Batman movies, there's like a Superman movies.
Justice League cartoon.
Yeah, the Justice League cartoons probably was the first, I think, like, more, like, not Marvel, of course, those are DC, but like superhero, like, set of stuff that really was like, yo, this is like
get
high
the team
quality.
together.
Exactly. Like, it felt really good, Of course, it's been, like you said, the X-Men TV show was great. But, like, when you really think about it, like, if you take the X-Men TV show and compare it to, Justice League, as far as, like, maturity, it's very different. As far as goofiness, it's very different.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know. I just feel like the Spider-Man movie never got me excited for another superhero movie. I was just like, oh, this is a great movie, Spider-Man, Like, I didn't think anything of it,
That's fair, yeah. Because I think the DC movies in that way kind of haven't changed, where it's always felt like they were trying so hard to lift from the comics, I guess. I really don't know their mindset when it goes into making movies, because their animated movies are so strong. Narratively, visually, and then like none of that translates to their movies most of the time. Like the Batman ones are the closest ones, but like the last couple, especially the last Justice League, was just like, what's going on?
Well, did you guys watch the Snyder Cut?
No.
Bruh.
From Batman vs. Superman?
No, the Justice League Snyder Cut.
Oh, he has one of those two? Oh, yeah, definitely not.
Doing on all of them.
Oh, man. It's a much better movie.
Interesting.
It's far superior. Like, it really makes me... First of all, I've pretty much forgotten my original watch through of the Justice League movie. I was like, it's fine. But then, like, watching the Snyder Cut, I was completely blown away. And I'm like, oh, this is better. Even though I feel like a lot of the changes are probably too subtle for me to notice. It would be like, oh, the acting isn't as good because he had to read... Because... I forget the other director. Buffy.
I can't say that I remember.
I'm no help here.
Yeah,
you guys are not the fact guys. Well,
keep it moving.
The guy who released the theatrical version, the director, he had like reshot a bunch of Snyder's stuff and moved scenes around, and essentially the whole like ending of the movie is completely different from the Snyder Cut.
That's a big deal.
It's a big deal. Yeah, we're not just talking about some deleted scenes or some like color adjustments. It's a huge deal. If you haven't seen it and you want to see a good superhero movie and you have like 3 or 4 hours.
5 hours.
A whole day.
It really, like, I would break it in half if you're worried about the time. But for real, I sat through, I didn't even stop to eat. I was totally enamored.
Ooh, it was your food for the day.
Yeah, I had a meal that no one else knew of.
A feast for the eyes, if you will.
Anyway, the point is the same though, is that even the Snyder Cut is really different from like Marvel movies.
So that's kind of a shame that they had to fix it. Like it's like day one DLC, in my opinion. Like you already released it, so we hoped that was the good version for me to go back and watch it. I appreciate that they did the work afterwards. But it's like, that's what differentiates them from Marvel, is just like, get your feedback before you release it to the public.
So that's it's interesting because, like, say, let's take like Full Metal Alchemist, right? Like, the first cut of Full Metal Alchemist is not as good as the second cut, which is the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. But the thing is, the first cut of Full Metal Alchemist was still good, right? Like, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is just great, you know? So it wasn't like, oh, like me even thinking about the Justice League movie, it just feels like a fever dream. Like, I remember stuff happening. Like, I remember them being in like some weird, like, it was, I don't know, it felt like they were in a sewer, and
they were all over the place.
A crab monster. Like, in my mind,
it's totally bonkers.
In my mind, it just seems like this wasn't real. I watched a fan made like YouTube series or something. Parody. You know, so
that's actually what happened pretty much. Like, because Zach had to leave the production because of I think someone died in his family. His daughter died or something.
Wow.
And I think that Warner Brothers didn't really trust him anyway, and they were kind of screwing with it.
Dang.
So, is it Warner Brothers? Is that who?
I mean, yeah, they have DC.
For those yeah. So it really was Whedon, Joss Whedon. That's who it is. Mm-hmm. Joss it really was kind of a fan made, remake of it. Like, and here's the thing, right? It's all about the circumstances. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood would have been good on the first cut if they had the manga to follow, right? Like, it isn't like they went back and fixed it. They just did it right because they had done it wrong the first time.
Well, it's the same here. I think it's similar, right? Because they diverted from the original path, right? The right path.
Yeah.
Which was
exactly. That's what happened with the movie. Is this was the movie that should have come out before Joss came in and not to dump on him or anything, but kind of screwed everything up and cut out a bunch of important storytelling. And
right.
I mean, gosh, what's his name? Cyborg is barely even a character, but in the Snyder cut, he's like the main character almost.
It's super random. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's where Marvel, like, I sometimes wonder if, of course, looking back now, it's like, oh, it's so obvious that they were going to make the MCU. Iron Man was setting up all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. Me and Charlene just went back and watched the first Iron Man. And I mean, in all intents and purposes, if you like, look at it, it just seems like another movie. Like, we were just talking about the Batman movies, like the Batman movies made by my man Interstellar, Christopher Nolan. Like, those movies were great, but it never felt like it was trying to make a universe. It just felt like it was like, we want to talk about Batman, and Batman's the main character, and that's the only thing that matters, right? But like, I think Iron Man started out the gate by like making it feel like they were going to bring in other characters, even if it was just like cameos, like, hey, we got this other character, or oh, that's that person from that comic that one time, like, it seemed like they were kind of touching on it. And then, like, I guess they were like, yo, what if we just took it all the way? Like, we've already set the groundwork,
yeah. And
then I guess the rest is history, right?
It feels like, like it was a secondary thought, but they had laid it so well, maybe by accident, that it just worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes it seems like they planned all this, but then other times they come up with a movie and they have to like retroactively be like, a character be like, well, why weren't you there when the Avengers were helping the world, or why didn't you save whoever because you were in the proximity? And then they have to come up with some bogus excuse, like, oh, I couldn't interfere or something. It's like, well, you didn't plan ahead for that.
You've seen what's it called?
The Eternals.
The Eternals.
Yeah, that's the most recent blatant disregard to that I've seen. Oh my god!
Should I not watch Eternals?
So okay. So I would like to hear your opinion about this, Kyle, because
all right,
it wasn't by choice that I watched the Eternals. Like, me and Charlene were like, oh, we're gonna watch it, but we're not gonna watch it in theaters. We went to go visit my niece and my sister and my brother-in-law, and my brother-in-law was like, hey, have you seen Eternals? He's like, you should watch it. And I was like, oh, we haven't seen it yet. And then he just turned it on one day when we were all like in the living room. So
you were trapped.
It was we weren't doing anything. It was 3 hours long. I mean, it's a decent movie, and like, it's not terrible. It's not bad. It's just like a movie that you would see and then you'd probably never talk about. Like, you'd be like, oh yeah, I saw that movie. Like, yeah, it was okay. Like, that's it. Like, it's just not up to the MCU standard. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
That's my opinion. I don't know what you thought, Kyle.
I 100% agree because the ratings kind of reflect that too. Like the ratings are very center of the road. Like me and Mrs. Yams, we were decided at the end of the movie that
Oh no. Mrs. Yams.
He said Mrs. Yams. Yeah.
Mrs. Yams, yes, my significant other. That it was kind of like the equivalent. Like if a DC director made a Marvel movie, they would have made the Eternals.
Yes, that's exactly what it feels like. Yo, perfect way to say it. Yeah.
So what would you guys say, like, makes a movie feel like a DC movie or feel like a Marvel movie?
You know what? This is actually something I was talking to somebody else about. I think it's just the levity. Like, I think that one thing that Marvel did that set it very differently from, like, say, Batman vs. Superman is that it's serious, but it doesn't take itself too seriously. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of jokes, a lot of comedy, a lot of, like, funny moments. And yeah, the universe is at stake. Yeah, the world's at stake. Da-da-da-da-da. But it's like, you feel like all the characters are lovable and hilarious and funny and goofy, and you can hang out with them. But, like, I feel like the DC movies and the Eternals feels like everybody takes themselves a little bit too seriously. In the Eternals, they definitely try to be funny-ish, like Marvel slapstick, but it doesn't work. It just feels like DC was trying to do it. Like,
Right.
So I think that's, to me, the biggest difference. Like, I think the Marvel, I feel like Iron Man, fundamentally, you could almost be like, it's kind of sort of almost a comedy at sometimes, you know, like an action comedy. But like the Eternals, they definitely have some comedy in it, but it just feels more like, we got to break the pacing up a little bit.
Yeah. I think, that's a really good point that you made about you said levity. What was that word you used?
Yeah, levity.
That's a $5 word. I didn't.
Paid for it.
But anyway, yeah, I agree that it's just like that movie it takes itself too seriously. And so like the whole idea is that the characters, I get it. They're not humans, right? But then it's like you treat them like humans. And so it's like it's a visual disconnect because you can say the same thing about, Thor. For all intents and purposes, he's not a human. He's a demigod, human adjacent. You can even like level with the Incredible Hulk in some way. He kind of is human, right? But he's mutated. So I get, but it's like they didn't find a way to make you want the Eternals to win or lose. Like you didn't really care what they were doing. And it didn't seem like they didn't care that you were watching. And it's like, who's this story for? Why is it taking this long for me to understand anything about them? And then at the very end, it's like, oh, you weren't going to let me understand anything about them after all. You just wanted me to sit through that. So thanks.
I think it's something that the Marvel Universe has done well in general, is that they let you warm up the characters before they make them, like, before they get too deep, right? Like, if you think about, like, the Iron Man movies, it was 3 Iron Man movies, but, like, if you watch the first one and the second one, you don't necessarily feel like, Tony Stark is going to be a pivotal person in anything. You're just kind of getting to know his character and da-da-da-da-da. And so, like, it's the same almost with, like, Captain America. You get to know him. And then so by the time that we get to the third movie with that one of those characters in, you start to be like, oh, man, I really, know, John, whoever, just name the character. But, like, it feels like an
John Wick.
I was about to say a lot of different characters, so I was like, let me just stop before like I was gonna ruin it.
I was just waiting for you to mess up.
But essentially, like, you feel like they don't have to explain anything. Like, the problem with, I would say, Batman versus Superman and the Eternals is that they're trying to get you to care about the characters and like tell a really deep and important moving story at the same time. And I don't think you can do both at the same time.
Yeah,
like it's like you have to endear people to the character. Like, some movies do it well, but like they tend to not like go too deep into like that character. Like, we care about who Bucky is because we've seen what Bucky's been through, as a Winter Soldier and stuff like that.
So it's funny. I asked this question already knowing what my answer would be, and I was wondering if you guys would line up, and you pretty much did. A few years ago, I forget what I was listening to or watching, but somebody mentioned this idea that Marvel and DC, not just the movies, but even the comics, have different paradigms about the storytelling, right? And so in Marvel, you have a bunch of very human, like relatable characters who are trying to learn how to deal with their godlike powers, right? But in DC, you have these godlike characters that kind of seem alien or like epic or majestic in some way, and they're trying to learn how to like fit into society, the human world. So not just saying like society. That's kind of shallow, but just
true.
They're just struggling. They're like learning new, I guess, things about themselves and struggling with how to do that. And I'm like, man, all of the good stories in DC line up with that, and all of the good stories in Marvel line up with that, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's why I feel like Thor is one of the most inconsistent Marvel heroes, because he's probably the most like a DC hero. He's a literal god. Like you said, he's an alien, he's a demigod or something. And when he's played straight, he's just not as fun as the other Marvel. He like kind of sticks out, and it's only in Ragnarok where he kind of is like much more human, like barely a god, really. Just kind of just feels like a normal person. When it's almost like a retelling of his character. And personally, I think DC is strongest when they stick to that, but when they try to do what Marvel does, it doesn't jive with like the DC universe, so it doesn't come out right.
Yes, it's interesting that you say that, because Thor has always stuck out to me, because he's kind of like, in the Marvel universe, for a while, he's pretty much like One Punch Man, where like, he was like the most overpowered person, OP man, but like everybody else was kind of like growing in their power, right? Learning who they were, figuring out their destiny, but like, honestly, it's not like he's powered up and got stronger. Like, that's just Thor. Like, Thor fundamentally is just absolutely insanely strong. Like, he is the game changer. If he lands on the battlefield, it's, it doesn't matter that Black Panther's there. Thor is on another level. And so he always felt a little weird, because it was like, how do you like power scale him in this, like in the Hulk is kind of like that too, when you think about his madness level, but it's like, he's still a scaling thing. Like, he has to get madder and madder and madder. But like, Thor is just fundamentally just a god mode, right? And yeah, in DC, like Superman, I mean, he's Superman, like super invulnerable, super fast. Like, he's just a superlative, generator. And like, I was
going to say, even Batman, he doesn't really have like godlike powers per se. I think with him, it's just godlike plot armor, intellect,
like plot armor.
I mean, that's kind of his power, right? They say, his power is being rich or being smart or being tactical or something. And yeah, it is. But the way it's written, it's the story. His story is always written around that.
Especially if you watch the Adam West Batman. Like,
I didn't know you had seen that. That's incredible.
You consider those superhero material. It's just like, what is this?
Like, the plot, just the utility belt is the most broken. Like, that's the only reason why I think he even stands a chance. They put the who would win a fight between Batman and Superman. It's only because of the plot armor. That's it.
His belt should just be called the context-sensitive belt. Like, it's always like just generates what's needed in a particular situation. Like,
push X to deal with this problem.
I mean, there's a whole storyline of the Kryptonite Bat. He beat Superman. Like, and it just feels like, one thing that I say about Marvel and what they did really well with the Marvel universe, cinematic universe, is that, like, the characters are growing in their powers, but at the same time, they always felt very vulnerable, right? Like, besides some of the characters who are in, like, literally aliens, but even the aliens are mortal. Like, they feel mortal, right?
Yeah.
And in their universe, like Asgard, like, you see their mortality when, Thanos comes around and stuff. Like, you feel like everybody they bleed. It's dangerous. And they do a really good job of making people feel like this. The stakes aren't just the universal stakes, but it's also a very personal like, I don't want to die, you know? I
Mm-hmm.
want to survive, you know?
And to that point about the mortality. Oh, sorry. Were you going to say something, Steve?
I was going to briefly say that the same way that Thor sticks out in a bad way in Marvel, I think Shazam sticks out in DC in a good way because he's just a kid who literally gets these godlike powers. Like it's
Oh, yeah.
he's a very human, relatable character
Mm-hmm.
because he doesn't know anything about his powers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
And that was probably one of the best DC movies to come out in a while, in my opinion.
well,
I still haven't seen
probably,
it.
yeah.
I still haven't seen it.
I haven't either.
Yeah,
I can kind of. You haven't seen. You said. Oh, I guess why you said probably.
Yeah. But what were you saying, Kyle, about the?
Oh yeah, the mortality. So one thing I think it kind of falls apart in the MCU as far as mortality is like whenever they do what are they called, prequels type deals where they show characters in precarious situations where you think that they actually can be harmed, but you've already seen where they are afterwards. And so it's like, it lowers the stakes tremendously. Like,
have they done that other than Black Widow?
I think, I can't think of anything other than Black Widow right now. But...
Captain Marvel,
she wasn't, I mean, technically a prequel, but we don't know what happens to her in the future, so that's not really a prequel.
I feel you. Like, the prequels are the problem. Like, they're cool, but like, yeah, like, you really just don't pay attention to the main character. Like, I think Black Widow, they did that on purpose. Like, I think they were like, hey, we're trying to like she's dead now. We're trying to like move her out of the way. So we're gonna like de-emphasize her in her own movie and like make the plot really rotate or whatever, gravitate around the other characters. Sister. Yeah, the sisters, the dad, and all, you know, whoever, you know, it may be in the movie. Because you're like, oh, these people could die, and we want them to feel important because we probably want to use them in the future.
Right. And I think that's one thing that kind of, like, so it's not only the movies that I get this feeling from. Like, it's also been, like, you see their timeline of who's going to be in what. And then it's like, if you watch the old movies, when you think somebody dies and then they don't, you know, stuff like that, I guess, also plays into, like, sometimes the stakes aren't as high. And so, I don't know. I think it works in the movies, you know, because they don't take themselves too seriously. But it sometimes, like, if it's too blatant, it can really just pull you out of it.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I think Marvel is interesting. Like, so I was gonna say this a little bit earlier, but like, really, I think the time that I really got interested in the MCU, like, really was paying attention, was right around when Civil War. I think Civil War is the first movie I was like, okay, like, I actually want to see what's going on with the MCU. Like, the other movies, I had seen them. Like, some I had seen in theaters, some I had seen on DVD, you know, whatever. But, like, I could tell they were connected, but it didn't really matter to me. But for some reason...
Age of Ultron?
I don't know when I saw Age of Ultron. I saw it. Like, I remember seeing all these movies. Like, I just don't remember when. But Civil War felt like the first time, like, I was actually paying attention. I feel like the other movies, I just watched them as, like, one-offs. In my mind. But for some reason, Civil War, I was like, oh, this is like really a story. Like, there's characters that matter. And also going back to the mortality, because I wasn't super paying attention, I wasn't sure if people were going to die. Because I know in the comic books, like, people die and stuff like that. Like, so to me, I felt like the stakes were really high. And I feel like that's when it brought me into MCU. And I was like all in, like, okay, I want to learn about this. What brought y'all into the MCU? Was it just like a natural progression, or was there like a moment where you're like, oh, like, I really am invested in this?
I think it was, oh, there I go.
Get it out. Get it out.
Yeah, I swallowed a fly there. I think it was a natural progression for me. I remember going with a bunch of guys to watch Avengers in theaters. I think it was like right after our finals had ended for the semester, and we like ran to the car and jumped in the car and ran to the theater. So it was a very like social thing. I don't remember what movies came out right before Avengers. That seems like it was so long ago.
Yeah, man.
I mean, it was like over 10 years, I think.
Yeah, I think the way it's grown, like, now I have a lot invested, but when it first started, I guess, becoming the MCU as we know it now, I was a kind of a movie buff, I guess. Like, so I grew up in Southern Louisiana, and there's nothing to do. All we had was a movie theater, and so that was all we did. So we'd go see, the Fast and Furious movies, and the Shrek. I think we went and saw that in theaters when it came out. Like, we would go see everything. So it was at a time where, Marvel was just pumping out these movies, so I was going to see them, type of thing.
So it was a natural progression as well, you would say?
I might as well have been.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. I just think I think like maybe because in the opposite way, growing up, I went to the movie theater maybe once a year, maybe twice.
Oh, wow.
Just, how our bank accounts were set up.
Yeah.
That's real.
And also like, maybe it's Jamaican culture in general. Like, you don't really do much outside the home if it's not, you might go, we go on vacation once in a while, or we do this or that. But like, we always did things at home. So we'd all we did was rent movies from Blockbuster. That was like our thing. Every Friday we could rent one movie or one game. So like, that was kind of what most movies came into my household. So growing up, it wasn't natural for me to go to a movie theater. So I just waited for it to show up on DVD or whatever. But, yeah, so I think, and also like, not that I'm not I'm not an anti-movie buff, but I don't know. I just never thought of anything other than like, oh, I saw the Iron Giant. Okay. Like, unless it says Iron Giant 2, I'm not really, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I should pay attention to the last movie, And then one thing about Hollywood and movies in general, because they know they gotta like bring in a general audience, they do a pretty good job of like, you didn't have to see the movies before it. It's kind of like what I was talking about with Harry Potter, which kind of threw me off, is that I wasn't ready for a movie that actually it mattered that you saw the movies before it, Like, I was just used to, oh, I saw the third Shrek or something. Cool. Like, maybe I don't know all these inside jokes, but the movie's still interesting to me, So, I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think I've always been invested in series. Like, that's not to say that I want to watch every series, but like, I don't really want to watch a movie unless I've seen the previous movies. Even if it's like Meet the Croods or something where I seriously doubt that the plot matters to the next movie.
Ooh, you'd be surprised.
Oh, would I?
Yeah.
What about Ice Age 5? The death of Ray Romano.
So that's a good point. I honestly believe that Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I feel like the MCU was solidified it, created you cannot see the next movie until you see the one before it.
Last one.
Like the industry kind of changed. They're like, oh, like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the digital economy or whatever, or just the culture changed. But
we do have access.
Yeah, so it's a lot easier to see stuff. But it really has felt like nowadays there is like onboarding that needs to be done, before.
Yeah. And there used to be like cross industry, I guess, interwoven narratives where you'd watch a movie, then you had to go read the book, then you had to play the game, then you had to come back to the next movie. So I'm glad they pretty much moved away from that as far as I know, and just like only do movies now. But yeah, that sounds exhausting.
That was basically Star Wars. Like,
yeah.
Star Wars straight up did not care. Like, I remember watching, I think it was the second, like, when I say the second Star Wars movie, I mean, like, the prequels, where a whole bunch of events happen in between the movies, but, like, they straight up don't say anything. And the only reason you would know is if you watch the random shorts that were on Cartoon Network for a brief, like, for a limited amount of time. And I just happened to, like, be a kid. So Cartoon Network, I just feed me, So I remember going to theater, like when, what's his name? The robot with the little heart in his chest, Grievous. I think it was Grievous. Like, the reason that Grievous is hunched over and breathes weird is because of what happened in those mini shorts.
Oh.
Like it is a significant moment. And it just seems like, that's just his character. Like, no, he was a normal dude, essentially, prior to a moment that happened. in those shorts.
I mean, as a person who never saw those shorts and saw the second episode, albeit it was a long time ago, I never felt like I had to know why the man was hunched over and breathing hard. I just thought he was a scary robot villain.
Yeah, no.
It definitely adds, like, it probably is super cool if you've seen those and like, oh, it's a character I recognize and I know what happened to him.
But yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. Like, I was just like noting that, like what Kyle said, like they used to like spread all this information out, but once again, Hollywood was used to that. Like, we onboard people where they're at. We don't expect you to know that. That's just bonus, you know?
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's like we expect you to know that X person does this or has this weakness or blah, blah, blah. Otherwise, you're like, why does this person never touch water? Like, oh, in the last movie, you know, like, you need to know that, you know.
What a thing to notice. I wonder how many characters you've seen that don't touch water and you just don't think about it.
Right.
You know, it's just strange. You know, one thing that I do give Marvel props on, even though it's like a cheap way to do things, it's what comics have done for years, and particularly Marvel. Retcons.
Ooh.
And
wait. Hold the thought about retcons. I just thought of something. So, did you guys see the new Shang-Chi? You saw that? Either of you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so do you remember everyone was so annoyed or impressed or just talking about the fact that Trevor Slattery was back, or that he was like involved with the 10 Rings? They were like, oh wow, the 10 Rings are actually a thing? They retconned that from the movie.
More or less. They kind of sort of like, because they said that he was being run by like a terrorist organization or something. He was just like an actor.
So here's the thing. Talk about onboarding. They Marvel released a short years ago that basically laid out, it was a prequel to, you know, Shang-Chi, and it literally said like it was a guy coming in to interview Trevor in the jail. And he's explaining like, didn't you know that the 10 Rings is an actual terrorist organization? And didn't you know that they're angry and they want to kill you now? And then he's like, I'm part of the 10 Rings, and he breaks them out. He breaks Trevor out, kills the guard, and leaves.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. So that was all known by anyone who was paying attention.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I don't even know, like, where would you even see that? Because I saw it on Disney Plus, but that's pretty much like,
it was on YouTube for years. Wow. They took it off YouTube a while before the Shang-Chi came out, so it would be on Disney Plus.
Wow. Man. That's crazy, because I didn't know the timing of when they got made. I just assumed they got made right before the movie, because you know, I was like, oh, but like, wow, they've been plotting this for so long, bro. Yeah. That's wild.
But that's the equivalent of like a Clone Wars exposition dump, right? Like, people didn't know this was happening until, you know, suddenly Trevor shows up in the movie. They're like, wait a second.
And they played up the reveal, too.
They did play it up a little. Well, I mean, even if you knew about, you know, even if you had watched the short, like the fact that he's still alive is impressive. Because the short heavily implies that he's going to kill him. So you didn't expect him to last. Because
he was in what, Iron Man 3?
Yes.
So that's so long ago, man. Like, it would be easy for you to even forget that he existed.
Yeah. It is a deep pool.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it to me, it reminds me, you know, I've told you about how I feel about Naruto, like how they've been plotting things for like literally a decade that they've planted long time ago. And when they reveal it, it's just like, bro, how did you do it? I feel like Marvel has that same energy, you know, like they really believe in what they're doing. They really believe in the longevity. At least I feel they believed in the longevity, definitely up until Endgame. You know, definitely. And I think then they were like, okay, we need to shuffle things around. Of course, they were setting up Shang-Chi. That feels like obvious, but I feel like a lot of the other stuff they wanted to do, but they weren't like sure. And then of course the passing of now I'm blanking on everybody's name today. Wow. Played Black Panther. How am I forgetting his name?
Chadwick.
Get Chadwick Boseman and just like some people being like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. And like them having to go, okay, cool. Well, we got to sunset a lot of characters. So that's going to maybe mess with a lot of stuff we want to do in the future. So we got to kind of set up the path for the new, Avengers.
It's hard because they opened with like, some of the most prevalent or most well-known Avengers names. Mm-hmm. And they still have Spider-Man. But like no one cared about Shuri until she showed up in the movie, and honestly, I don't even like Shuri now. I know she was supposed to replace Black Panther
in the comics. Yeah.
I knew going forward in the movies that they wanted her to be the new like Black Panther stand-in after Chadwick died. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like they've opened the phase 1 and I guess phase 2, I don't know whatever phase we're on, but everything leading up to Endgame felt like, all right, this is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and now it just kind of feels like, and we shall keep going.
Yeah, like the series especially feel like that.
People didn't know about Loki. Loki was made by the MCU. People didn't know about Kang. I guess people didn't know about most of the villains now that I mention it.
I think the biggest problem is that like they're not going to get the grace that they got in the beginning because the expectations are so high, right? Like,
sure.
Like back in the day, they could just do this stuff and like they're planning things and like, okay, we need to build, Steve Rogers. So we need like 4 movies. Okay. We need to build the Guardians of the Galaxy. Let's just drop this random movie that first of all, Guardian Galaxy was the hottest sleeper hit of all time.
Super fire. Super fire.
I remember going to it and being like, yo, this is one of the funniest movies I've seen in a long time. Like, legit laughing.
It was great.
And just, I'm dancing. It's terrible awesome.
And just great writing. Like, the scene where they're all arguing. Like, it's just, like, just spot on. But anywho, like, they had all that time to build all these characters to make this epic, conclusion. But now people are just like, I want it to be epic now. Why is it not epic now? Give them no grace, and... So it's almost like to their benefit for them to make some mediocre movies. So people will stop paying attention, just bring a lull, and then they can ramp up. But now everything's probably $1 billion productions. Like you can't, from a
yeah. And there's so much. Go ahead, dude.
I was gonna say there's certain movies in their lineup that are coming that even still, like if they do have a couple more stinkers, won't get grace for. Like the Doctor Strange movie has to hit.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy 3 has to be a hit.
Yeah.
There's just no way around it. And it'll like destroy them if those movies are bad versus like, nobody cares about the Eternals. So they'll have to do something like that again.
So I have a friend who I disagree with quite often, especially regarding movies.
Ooh.
And he...
Say his name.
I dare not. I don't want to summon him.
Just like pops in the chat.
No, like he won't even be in the chat. I'll just be hearing his voice. Like, guys, can you hear him? You guys don't hear him.
Or like just like.
Then I go silent.
Like when you're like an enemy is nearby and it starts playing that music like burn.
I try to save and quit.
You can't save.
There's an enemy and Audacity is like, you can't save yet. The enemy's nearby. You have to go to a safe zone. Anyway, I disagree with this guy a lot. And years ago, he and I were arguing about the MCU. And he was talking about how the MCU was better than comics. That Marvel had done the right thing by eschewing like the weak comic book writing of our forefathers. And some of the elements, especially that he was focusing on, was that comics tend to have like lots of retconning. They tend to have, story arcs that kind of like step on each other, or they might feel familiar, or rehashing things. Characters die, but it doesn't really matter. Like there's not really one succinct story. And he was saying that the Marvel movies are great because that's what they've done. They've taken all of the, I'm exaggerating, all the trash comic stuff from Marvel and kind of like sanded it down to one beautiful story. And they were just slowly telling the story over multiple movies. And I told him, I was like, that's great, and I'm glad you think that, but you're comparing one series of movies that, frankly, had just gotten to Endgame, so, like, really had just gotten to their first major conflict. Comparing that to decades of storytelling
Right.
with dozens of major conflicts and like world-changing universe-changing events. And like, of course there's going to be retconning. And I guarantee you that if Marvel keeps going after Endgame, like if they keep trying to change and adapt and continue the stories, they're going to start adding in time travel.
Yes.
They're going to start adding in alternate dimensions and alternate worlds where they can use that to retcon and tell new stories with the same characters.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to start bringing people back from the dead. And look what happened in Endgame.
100%.
And look what happened in
everything
No Way
else.
Home.
In everything else.
And in Loki. Like I told him, and I was.
Now he's eating crow.
Now he's eating crow. Of course, now he doesn't care. He completely forgot the conversation, but I remember.
How convenient.
How convenient.
I remember.
I remember
He
everything.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
The first Marvel comic.
Or like when you're in a video game and you say something, this character will remember this.
Yeah.
It's like, what are the consequences of my actions? I don't know.
Speaking of retcon, weren't you going to say something about retcon earlier, Brad?
Yeah, you were.
I mean, essentially what Steve just said is kind of what I was trying to mention, where like they took a bold move. And instead of doing what every other, I feel like, franchise has done in history, which is just ignore that we've created the same movie. like essentially, like the Hollywood is just reboot.
Yeah,
but just
reboot.
Like reboot with a little bit of homage, right? Oh, like maybe like Lou Ferrigno is in the Hulk movie or something, or like totally in the background, But they never like honestly honor what happened. No. But I feel like what Marvel did with the absolute retcon, which is a cop-out, but I appreciate it because it's so Marvel. After
wait, I haven't seen the new Spider-Man either, so if you're about to mention that, please.
No, I'm talking about Endgame. What's the second movie? Endgame and
it was Endgame.
Infinity War.
Movie.
Infinity War. Thank you.
Infinity War was the first movie.
So Infinity War, first of all, props to them. I literally clapped for them because I said this. Yeah, because I said this is the boldest thing I've ever seen a blockbuster franchise do. Kill your cash cow characters, like in a demonstrable way. And of course, I was like, they're gonna come back somehow in some capacity because it's Hollywood. They paid these people money. But I respected it because if you're not like a super like movie storyline person, it felt visceral. You know what I'm saying?
It's big.
To see Spider-Man fade away. He's Tom Holland, this young kid, this lovable, everybody's favorite Spider-Man,
Right.
To see him.
And we had only gotten like one good movie out of him at that point, right?
Man, it was bold, man. So props to them. That's when I got all the respect for, MCU people.
And you definitely bring up a good point that we knew, a series with Tom Holland was coming. So like you said, we knew they were coming back. And they were saying over and over again, the next Avengers movie is just coming out in a year, so you don't have to wait to find out the conclusion. But like you said, the moment was so visceral that you still felt the impact. Like, because it was great storytelling, despite the outcome. It was great storytelling.
Yeah, and I think it was even more, like, shocking because we knew that another movie should be coming, right? Because everybody goes in there knowing, hey, these characters aren't going to get touched because they got a movie coming. This character's not going to get touched because so you kind of go in there with safety. So you expect, like the Okoyes and the Wasp, like random characters that don't really seem to matter, like are going to get faded out or killed. It doesn't matter because they're not going to have a movie. But they went for the main people and it's like, yo, right?
Well, you probably felt that way until Thanos just drops Gamora. And then that's when it gets tense, because up to that point you probably were thinking like, oh cool, they're gonna beat Thanos.
Yes.
But now it's like, wait, they just killed off a main character. Like this could go wrong, and at that point it seemed overwhelmingly like he was gonna win. So it really felt, and you're just waiting, and you're like, oh, thank God, Thor shows up, he's got the axe, we're good.
Yes.
But then.
Yes.
It doesn't work.
Yes. And I think even if like you watch enough movies, the bad character always has a moment of triumph before their great loss.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you got to have that what you call denouement, that critical moment where things seems at their worst, so that they can feel like, oh, this is so great. But they never got better, right? It just stayed terrible to the end. And
the movie ended.
Like, that is like American audience, like 101 is that they have to have a good ending. You know, like, oh, like, even if it's not like conclusion, you need to feel like that was resolved. There's some resolution. Right. But we walked away with no resolution. Feeling
for years.
So I think that movie didn't even have a post-credit scene, did it?
It did not have a post-credit scene, and to top it off, I think it also had like Avengers will be back, and then it just smoked the words.
Oh, you're right.
It was super intense.
They did everything.
They did everything.
Yeah, it was bold, and I mean, of course, the retcon was coming, right? In a sense, not even I would say the retcon, but like the Dragon Balls
undoing. Yeah.
You know, like the Dragon Ball's going to show. And I thought it was going to be some really
Dragon Ball.
You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, Goku ain't dead. Like, we still got the Dragon Balls. You know, I figured it would be some like magic, like some weird person who we'd never heard of or whatever. But like to see them go, no, we're going to go into another timeline. Uh-oh. Now this is getting really Marvel here. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I was like, oh, they started something. And it made, and so once they started that, it was like, oh, all bets are off, because they essentially just showed like, we have the ability to like go into another universe, get what we need to save the day, you know. And it was cool that, you know, Thanos from another timeline joined. I was like, that's super cool. Like, just to see that they're like, yo, we're taking this in a really Marvel way was, to me, like, those two movies, like, if I had any doubts about who like Kevin Feige is and all the people behind the scenes, like, I was like, okay, like, I trust you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I trust you, you know.
But the build up, I think, you know, what we've been talking about is them making all these movies, making all these characters. You know, I don't have the experience, so I don't know. But I think if I wouldn't have seen every movie up to that point, I wouldn't have the same experience watching those two movies and the same opinion.
Certainly not. Yeah. Totally different.
And so that makes me wonder, how well do the movies do critically as standalone, even though they don't have to necessarily go through that. This is a curious, like, food for thought, how well they do.
I mean, I might be the closest, in a sense, in our group here, in the sense that, like, I hadn't seen, like, I've seen the movies here or there. Like, I hadn't seen, like, the second Thor or like, I think it was Steve, you sat down with me and watched Ragnarok or something. At some point, you know?
Yeah, we watched that together.
Like, so a lot of the movies were gaps. Like, Age of Ultron, I think I saw, but, like, honestly, I was half paying attention. You know, like, so to me, like, a lot of the characters, like, to this day, I don't like Black Widow. And, you know, I know that, like, her loss in the movies were really, like, impactful. Like, you know, people shedding tears. And to me, I was like, good, Rick. You know, like, not like that. But like, I
hate Spider.
You know, I hate Spider. You know, like, I didn't have all this, like, empathy or, like, I just kind of went in there with what it was. And I'll say this, like, it was a solid movie. You know, like, I think the only thing, like, I love Black Panther just because, you know, one, I'm Black. I just appreciated what it represented.
Second, your Panther.
You know, my Panther. But, like, I think, to me, personally, I think it was just a great movie. I think, fundamentally, it would be really, really hard for the impact to be there on some characters, just because. But I think they did a good job overall. But once again, I have seen enough movies, so maybe my opinion is biased, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think fundamentally, you know, I was about to say game. The movie was made for people who had seen the other ones. And so it's like, it's one of those things where they, you know, they make it with the idea. It's your fault if you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I do feel like the I keep calling Endgame, what's the first?
Infinity War.
Infinity War made me want to go back and watch the other movies, so I'd be prepared for what's happening, so that everything would make sense.
Yeah,
you know? And so it made that movie that much more impactful. So I feel like that's an interesting. I mean, how do you even do that? Like, how do you make a movie so good that it makes people want to go back and watch the other movies so they can watch the next movie. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and why can't DC do it?
Yeah, DC.
Where you at?
I don't know, man. DC's just... I feel like DC's... Like you said about whoever said that, like, the idea, like, it's just different perspectives of, like, superheroes. Godlike people trying to be human and human people trying to be godlike. It's like they need to figure out their own formula.
Yeah.
But that takes effort,
the problem,
you know?
I think it's just that, like I said earlier, the best DC movies are the ones I think that kind of stick to that formula. And Snyder especially, I mean, you can hate on Batman v Superman all you want.
I will.
He definitely is good at that. Of making the story feel, and the story of the characters feel epic and godlike, and just like, you know, just dealing with all that stuff. I think those are their best movies, but I think the way Marvel is written has better mass appeal. I've always preferred DC stories, like from the comic, not from the comics, 'cause I didn't read them, but from the cartoons and like the little stories I did read. I always preferred the DC stories because I just thought they were cooler, but I feel like Marvel might just have more mass appeal.
I think that just going based off of, you know, DC, I'll say it again, is super strong in the animation space. So I think that maybe
that's true. Yeah,
maybe they would do better if they just made series with their characters versus trying to make movies.
You mean like live action series?
Yeah,
because like not a Black Widow, pull a Loki or something.
Well, you're actually really right, Kyle. Because like, what do we have? The Flash. We have the Batman movies. We have like Superwoman. They have
Green Arrow.
Here's the problem, right? CW owns, I think, a lot of DC like television rights, and CW is trash.
But that's Warner Brothers. CW.
Okay. All I know is all of the DC like live action shows. What was it? The Arrow was okay the first season. I didn't watch after that.
Yeah, Green Arrow was fine for a while.
Flash was never great, and now it's like a joke.
Funny enough, I know a lot of people who really like Flash. I tried to watch it, and I didn't see the appeal really either. Henry Cavill's in there,
corny, and it feels like my mom's soap operas. Like, it's super corny.
I think that's why people like it. It's more of a soap opera.
That's fine, but it's not a good like DC
soap opera. Sorry.
Anyway. It felt like they were moving really fast on the Arrowverse. They brought in all these other DC. They basically, you know, already shot their shot. They have all these heroes in the so-called Arrowverse, and the Arrowverse is a joke.
Oh, Techosaurus.
Techosaurus. R.I.P. Techosaurus. Oh, I'm sorry. Nobody. If
you
knows.
you know. But yeah,
you know. Like
know.
3 people will know who Techosaurus is. Man has been
Two
scrubbed.
of them are here.
He's literally been scrubbed from the history books. Nobody will know about what he did. Oh, man.
We remember
Techosaurus. But long story short, for you, Steve, and you might know a little bit because we maybe mentioned it to you.
I'm sure we've shared it with you.
But he made the Arrowverse game. He was developing it on his own. And
that guy.
They DMCA'd him to oblivion. Like,
wait, did they?
Oh,
they
I
did.
Didn't know.
Like, he is scrubbed from the.
He's a shell of a man.
It's as if he was never born. It is that wild. Like, honestly.
So I assume his YouTube channel is not up anymore.
I think it is, but it doesn't have any
videos.
of the Arrowverse stuff on it.
Yeah.
I think it just has his original stuff.
That was so blatant. I don't know what he was expecting.
Yeah, it wasn't I think it was all good until he really was like, I'm going to sell this, or I'm going to.
He was about to release it.
He was going to sell it?
Yeah, he was going to really release it. I don't know if he was going to sell it.
Okay.
But
okay.
Yeah.
That's the height of
it was like a fan game, and the community was behind him. He just.
Oh, you know what? I think there are still reviews of the game on YouTube,
okay.
but all of his devlogs.
Devlogs, yeah.
Do you think we can get a hold of the game and play it?
Maybe.
It probably exists somewhere on a Discord server.
Along with malware.
Malware.
I'm willing to take that risk.
It exists. I bet you we could find the videos if we like really trolled the internet. Like, some subreddit
They're
somewhere.
Out there.
They exist, but man, it was not good. Let's say this. Like, it wasn't good quality wise, but the passion was so real.
Right.
So genuine, so honest. Like, I feel like it broke him entirely, completely broke him.
He was invested. Like, it was, we probably followed him for a year and a half. And that was only a portion of his journey.
Yeah.
He was building a team.
Username.
Yeah. What was the boy's name?
Galva.
Galva, my boy Galva, who did all the work.
Galva was 3D modeling. He was writing code.
Do a voice.
He was get a little shout out. He probably was.
Oh man. But
that might have been the cause of the DMCA too, because they were using like actual clips from the show.
Yeah, that's probably what it really caused. Yeah, when they started using actual material. But back to your point, Steve. Sorry, I think you're right in the sense that like the CW has a quality, right? Like they know exactly what they're doing. You know, it used to be what Warner Brothers or whatever, WB. You know, back in the day, and I think it's kind of like sci-fi movies where like sci-fi knows their audience and they're like, like we can make better movies, but why? You know. I'm
gonna watch them.
Like we're gonna make more money with less effort. So, I think they've really leaned into it, and that's why it's just like a separate thing. It's like the Arrowverse. It's not really the DC anything. It's like the Arrowverse. Yeah. Everything is just around that first series. So, yeah, you know, I think.
Can you imagine like a Loki style show about the Green Lantern Corps? Or
it'd probably be really cool.
It'd be fire.
I mean, that'd be sick.
I mean, the fact that like the old school Justice League like cartoon was so good, man. It was so solid. I actually remember when they first dropped the show, and it was like an hour long episode, and it was like that when they met the Martian Manhunter the first time, and there's a scene. If you haven't seen it, I mean. It's so long ago, but like there's a scene where genuinely you felt like, like it felt like an Endgame, an Infinity War moment happened in that, you know, go back and watch it. I mean, maybe we should watch it and talk about it because it was so well done. And they really brought that show all the way through. So many interesting characters, storylines, you know, so many different, I feel like there's gotta be a way they can bring this into a cinematic world, you know, like they just take some of that essence,
right? Yeah. Like they're strong. I guess it just goes back to show that their strongest point so far with the few hitter movies is just the series. You know, if they would lift. I mean, I say lift loosely, but lift the stories that they used to tell and put them into live action in so many words that they probably would do well.
And put real effort behind it. I mean, when I look at Loki or WandaVision, these are like high quality. You know, no goofy suits, no bad effects. We can't have Teen Titans up in here where they're cutting corners and making questionable casting decisions and stuff.
They don't even care. Like they honestly don't care. They're just like, we trying to get this money. You know,
I think they also are not to be this guy, but I do think that the CW focuses a lot on like political, what's like social, you know, the social norms. And
I definitely, a lot of the shows are just like romance, like not rom-com, but like rom action movie. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
You know,
they gotta stuff a corny romance everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why I stopped watching The Flash. I liked the first season. First of all, the season seemed like it went on for infinity. Like, I was like, why is this not done yet? Like, why is it still going?
Yeah.
But like him and that main character girl, like, I was like, just kiss each other. Goodness. Like, you the Flash, you could just pick her up, run around the world, show her Paris, and go, hey, I love you. And it would be done. But it was just like him constantly like, I don't know. And then like another guy shows up. And, you know, like actually like my favorite character in the show was not even like the most heroic character in the show wasn't what's his name? The
Barry
Flash.
Barry.
Barry Allen. It was
Barry kind of sucks.
It was actually his love interest's boyfriend. Iris's boyfriend. Like, to me, was the real hero.
Oh, the cop guy?
Yeah, the cop guy. Like, he was the real hero. Like,
he
if
was.
you watch all of season 1, like...
He didn't deserve what happened to him.
Exactly.
I liked Cisco. Cisco was the cool one.
Oh, Cisco.
Oh, yeah, Cisco was great.
Yeah, he was pretty good. Yeah, so, I don't know. I feel like... I feel like Loki... So this is... I think we talked about this before, but I feel like Loki is exactly what I was hoping for at the end of the MCU. Where they would... Instead of... Okay, we're going to stay in this weird world where it's all about, like, the cool kid... Like, the people we know. But instead, they're, like, doing interesting stories. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, Loki was one of the most interesting, the most fun, like, MCU-adjacent things that has been done so far. And I really hope they lean in that direction. Like, just have fun. Like, do the multiverse. Like, goof around. Like, just do it,
Yeah. And I think it was for two reasons. We saw Loki a good bit in the movies, but we didn't know, like, a whole lot about him. And everybody wanted to see more Loki. Mm-hmm. While, like, all the other shows were characters that we saw so much of already. And it kind of just felt hollow because, looking at the Loki show, it's like, why didn't we have more shows about side characters that everybody loved versus you just trying to, I guess, push the story ahead with these other, because they weren't, in my opinion, they weren't bad, but I didn't appreciate them as much as I did Loki.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of,
because even with the Hawkeye one is like in the same boat.
Yeah, I haven't started watching it. I mean, is it, don't tell me anything about it, but is it decent?
Is it worth watching?
So yes, on both accounts. I don't know how much to say without spoiling it, so I'll just answer your question. Yes.
Let me ask you this. Let's take Hawkeye, take it out of the MCU. Like, is it only important because it's in the MCU, or is it like standalone, you can just watch it and enjoy it? Like, oh, this is great.
It's funny you ask, because to be honest, the show is incorrectly named.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So once you watch it, you'll see that it should have been named something completely different. And then, it should have been part of the MCU, but marketed differently. I think they marketed it the way they did because they had the name recognition. But
it's funny you said that. You said, "Oh, I should have been named," and then your internet cut out, so I have no idea what you said.
We'll keep it like that. It'll be a mystery.
I just don't.
Us,
I won't know. I won't know until I listen to the episode.
Yeah, when I do the edit, I'll know what you said, but I won't know.
Yeah, get your internet fixed too, by the way.
So I'm gonna need to watch Hawkeye before I finish this edit. But
yeah,
I didn't say what it should have been named. I don't know when it cut out though.
Okay,
yeah.
It literally cut out when you said it should have been named, and then you went silent, and then you came back right after that. So, but I mean, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like all of the other superhero. Okay, so this is I don't know if you could even call this a superhero. I guess it is. You guys ever read or seen the movie The Watchmen?
Yes.
So now they have a TV series that's on HBO Max. I heard it's really
seen
good.
That.
I heard it's.
You did hear that?
Yeah, I heard it's really good from people. I personally haven't seen it, or people, really paid any attention. But like The Watchmen is one of those weird things where it's like, I feel like it's DC all the way deep, like
cranked up.
Yeah, like all of the grittiness of DC without any of the humor. Like,
so it's too far?
I mean, if you read the book, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's funny in the sense that, like, I don't know.
It's wry. It's wry. Yeah, like, I'll say that.
I don't think it's like trying to be funny. It just is circumstantial. But like, I feel like the DC movies don't really lean into, like, I'm saying, I'll just say, like, The Watchmen is like the grittiest of all the superhero stuff, right? Then, like, there's Batman vs. Superman, and Batman vs. Superman felt like it was trying to be so serious. You know what I'm saying? Like, super serious. And I'm like, I just feel like
it was so contrived. Exactly. I think that was what it was for me.
Right.
It just felt like they needed to, like, step back and be like, hey, your main characters are wearing spandex. Like, Like, chill out. You know what I'm saying? Like, Marvel sees that and understands that people are going to make fun of that and goof off on that. But it's like they don't realize, like, you know, they do some things right. Like, I liked in the, you know, DC, particularly Superman movies, that in not Marvel versus Superman, Batman versus Superman, that they mention that all of the stuff that Clark Kent had did as Superman is kind of like terrible things. He had a giant battle that killed all kind of people, destroyed all kind of buildings. And then they were like, hey, we're going to sue Superman now. You know, like, we're going to take him to court. I always thought that was really cool and an interesting direction, but it felt like they just...
Yeah, it's a real thing that someone would do. But then the rest of the movie is none of that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also what happens in Watchmen, speaking of that.
Like, actually, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but there's a whole I don't know if you want to call it but like a whole Marvel set of series on Netflix that I think...
The Defenders?
Yeah, The Defenders. Like, that's kind of gets forgotten about, but was like secretly pretty good. You know?
Oh.
Like,
I've heard of that. I didn't know
some of it's pretty good. I know Jessica Jones is good. You said it's good. Daredevil was good. I don't know how good it remains.
Yeah.
Iron Fist was not good.
Iron Fist kind of killed it, actually. I think that destroyed it. Like, because
Luke Cage was
good. The first season of Luke Cage was good for sure. The second season kind of like I wasn't really feeling it as much. But like, me and Shailene are watching Daredevil right now, and it's like just a solid show. Like, you'd almost forget that it's in the MCU. But the crazy thing is that show takes place directly after Avengers. Where's the Battle of New York? Which movie was that? Where all
Avengers.
That was the first Avengers.
Yeah, it takes place directly after that in New York City, post all of the aliens killing people and blowing stuff up. And it's like the aftermath of that. And you're seeing everybody dealing with it in how Daredevil arises. How Daredevil arises because of
the
things that happened. They don't bring in any of the MCU, like, you know, characters per se, as far as I can remember. I mean, we're still watching it, but it's like, it feels very grounded in that universe, you know? So, and it's interesting because if you think about it, like, in context, the story it tells is very, very local. Very local to what's happening in what's called Hell's Kitchen. But it's like with superheroes, you know, well, a superhero and like I guess there's other superheroes, but anyway, it's very localized. So it kind of shows you like, what would it be like to be in Marvel if you weren't that powerful? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you were like, you know, like,
because most of the best characters in that show are not Daredevil or any other like powered character.
They're just like normal people.
They're just normal people.
And I think that's another thing that the DC movies miss, is that they don't have any normal people. Like, like family members or even like people on the street who are witnessing stuff.
Martha.
Just to yell her name.
Martha.
Her superpower is her name.
Just secretly whisper Martha, like throughout the movie. Yeah.
Martha!
But here's the thing. I think the problem fundamentally with the DC movies is that they were trying to catch up with Marvel instead of going, hey, let's pay attention to like Marvel set up this over the course of like a decade. Like, we can't do this in one movie. Like,
yeah, they were hasty.
They were really like, yes, we can.
Like, Batman versus Superman, which was basically their take at Civil War, right? Like, essentially, should have just been like, hey, we have Batman, like, we have Ben Affleck Batman movie, Ben Affleck Batman movie, Ben Affleck Batman movie. You know what I'm saying? We have Wonder Woman, you know, have all these movies, bring in, of course, the cyborgs and everybody, like, like slowly, and then you could have this like really cool movie. But they were like, nah.
What really grinds my gears about the Batman v Superman movie is that in my head, I don't know how accurate this is, but in my head, that's like a very mature DC story. And I don't mean like it's for mature people. I mean that like that's the story that gets told after
Oh, a
a
lot
long
happens.
time.
Yeah.
A lot of DC
Yes.
storytelling.
Yes.
There's a lot of history between these characters, but they just whipped it out at like the second or third movie. It's like no, we're not ready for this.
So Batman v
You know,
Superman is supposed to be post Justice League, or is it?
Prior
I don't know.
to, I think it's prior to, and but like the thing is like it's really post Superman, right? Or Man of Steel, right? Because it follows directly after the second Man of Steel movie, right?
Well, the way they did the movies, yes.
Okay. And,
But we're wondering in the comics, like, does it make sense for that battle to happen so early?
Right.
Oh no, it takes
in like
forever.
in the story of DC? Yeah,
It takes
Because there were
forever.
2 Avengers movies, like just comparatively, there were 2 Avengers movies before Civil War. So it's like
Oh,
they were
awesome.
they were a well established team before they had,
I mean, even if you go back and you watch the show we've been talking about, the Justice League TV show, it's clear that Superman and Batman kind of don't like each other.
Yeah, they're at odds.
And it does over time kind of like boil over. Like their ideologies are very different. And that's the whole point. Like, it's not that they dislike each other like fundamentally. It's that similar to Iron Man and Captain America, they have different ideologies when it comes to approaching being a superhero. And it really takes a lot of things. Oh, Superman does this. Oh, Superman lets somebody get away when they should have, because he's too good and he can't really do bad things. And Batman does something a little bit too edgy, or is taking, and they keep coming at odds. And then also they have actually similar love interest, which would be basically Wonder Woman,
Oh, yeah, Diana.
But, Diana and Diana loves basically Batman, but Bruce. But Bruce is so emotionally unavailable. He keeps turning it down, and then but Superman is kind of like, hey girl, so you kind of have this conflict where they kind of, it's like a love triangle where Wonder Woman's kind of like, what's wrong with you guys, kind of sort of. But it really does build over time, and I think it's the same in the comic books. So yeah, to say these fools were in 2 different towns doing their own things, and then something happened and they met each other for the first time, and then, oh, you must be evil. It was so, like you said, Steve, the perfect word, contrived.
Yeah, and it's it's super contrived. It's like, oh, they're being manipulated, blah blah blah. But I mean, everyone knows that. But I guess what I was trying to point out was that not only is it contrived, but it's just a waste of a good storytelling opportunity.
Right.
Because now you can't have major conflict between Batman and Superman, because conflict was how they met and became friends. So all the major ideology differences and stuff that can lead to good human conflict has already been done.
Yeah.
At least between these 2.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think
so. It's you just wasted it.
I think the only hope they would have really is to reboot it, which they've already kind of done with the Robert Pattinson. Batman, which is apparently 2 hours and 57 minutes.
Another 3-hour DC movie,
bro.
Well, at least they're not. At least we know they're not cutting it short.
Yes.
I don't know if I can do 3-hour movies anymore, bro. They're just,
bro.
Maybe they are.
I don't know.
They probably still cut out stuff.
I don't know, man. A 3-hour Riddler movie could be really, really good.
He's just giving riddles the entire time.
just the whole movie.
The whole movie.
Riddles. Just
what has teeth that never speaks,
Isn't it basically
Batman?
the Riddler, kind of sort of Saw, anyway. But
yeah,
kinda.
Jigsaw.
Let me talk. Let's talk about this 3-hour movie thing, because I really am kind of done with it. And who here hasn't seen I keep wanting to call them the Untouchables, the Eternals,
the Untouchables, the Incredibles.
That should be a superhero.
That was you, right, Steve? You haven't seen it.
I have not seen it. Eternals.
Yes. So the Eternals. So here's why I don't like the 3-hour movie, because I think a 3-hour movie means that you should have made 2 movies, or
a series,
or multiple movies. I feel like back in the day, most movies were an hour and a half. Right? You didn't want to break the 90-minute mark because, the attention span.
Right.
And, I feel like artistic movies were longer than 2 hours, the avant-garde movies. So
Peter Jackson movies you knew were going to be long.
Yes, But I feel like when a movie is 2.5 hours long or 3 hours long, that pretty much tells me that they have too much content and it's about to get stuffed in your face. Like, they're going to tell you everything and they're going to have exposition. Like, our favorite things in movies, exposition dumps.
Oh my gosh.
Like, when a character tells you everything.
Everything.
So because you can't see it, right? It's like, back in 19...
I disagree totally. I feel like long movies, some stories are just long, man. Like, I wouldn't say a book needs to be split in half because it was a long book.
But I think
and if your problem is exposition, then a long movie is helpful because it lets you exposition at a better pace. It's all about
fatigue,
improving the pace.
Fatigue. I just don't think that we can. I think there's just a limit to how much you can get out of something. Like, that's TV series work well because they might be 30 minutes, they might be an hour, but you get like a break. You can stop and then come back and like do it over a course of days. But like, you're going to see Eternals. I mean, I think it's a good movie. Like, it's not bad, but I think, I don't know. I feel like it's not a good sign to me when a movie's 3 hours.
I partially agree. I think fatigue is real. I think maybe a long movie should be split up into a series. I just don't think it's right to say it should be split up into shorter movies.
Well, yeah, I think,
or shortened in order to like make a certain runtime, because that's exactly what happened with the Justice League movie. Was they cut a bunch of stuff out.
But in the Justice League movie though, like what it benefited from was better pacing. Whenever it was given all these extra cuts and these different shots, so I think
how do you arguable, I guess. If you haven't seen the long version, it's hard for you to.
I haven't. I was going based on, I guess, how you compared it to the other one. It's just like, so you said that it was better on all accounts, and I think the first one did struggle with pacing. But long movies in general, in my opinion, struggle with pacing, and that's one of the things that makes them too long.
Not with exposition.
My only point about a long movie is that a lot of times a movie is long because they don't want to make another movie. Like, it's just simple as that. Like, they don't want to deal with this again. Like, they don't want to go through the process of, like, doing it right. Like, hey, this will take 2 movies for us to tell the story correctly. Maybe 2 2-hour movies, right? Like, 2 solid movies. But that's 2 different productions, 2 different marketing budgets, 2 different blah, 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 blah. And I just feel like it's a real, like, to me, it's an indicator that, like, yo, we got a lot to say, but we are not really invested in taking the time to tell it to you, because we don't necessarily even believe that it's good enough. Like, it's gonna do well, if you know what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if you get that.
To merit the second movie.
I can see that. I feel like cutting it into a movie, because a movie you have to do exposition again, right? The movie has to have a finale or something close to a finale at the end of it, and it has to have something like exposition at the beginning of it. And even if it's like Lord of the Rings Part 2, there's still going to be some downtime in the beginning and the end that you could have just not had.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think exposition is fundamentally bad, but if it's used as as a padding device, or to recoup time that you couldn't make into a more interesting cinematic experience, then...
Well, I don't think anyone's suggesting that.
Well, no, I'm not suggesting it, but that's what happens in these arbitrarily longer movies.
Yeah.
Like,
no, and I feel you, like, Steve, in the sense, like, just because it's 3 hours doesn't mean that it's bad, per se. Like, that's not necessarily what I'm saying. But I think that in DC's case, I feel like it's indicative of a problem. Because the reason, like, I mean, Batman vs. Superman prior to the Snyder Cut was really long, like 2.5 hours or something, right? The Snyder Cut was, how long was the Snyder Cut? Like 3 hours? 3 plus?
I think it was more than 3 hours.
Yeah, so like,
I think it was 4 hours.
So like, they were like, yo, there's so much material and it tells a much better story when it's long, but literally nobody's going to sit in a movie for 3.5 hours. Like, nobody, right? Like, this is not going to happen. And maybe there's some like financial element, like, like having a movie for 3.5 hours, how many showings can we do? Blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, it just, to me, DC doing that isn't a good sign. If I see any other franchise, I might be like, yo, they got a really cool story to tell. And
yeah, because it used to be risky to do like a really long movie because of all the things you mentioned. So yeah, for it to be commonplace now, definitely tells a lot about where the industry is.
Yeah.
Maybe also I like them more because I like the idea of making people
Sit in darkness and wait.
No. Like, I don't know this. I think people are spoiled when it comes to media entertainment, and that people aren't willing to like sit through something. You know, you saw this a lot with WandaVision, and people are like, "Oh, it's so boring, it's so slow," but like it was just a really carefully wrought, piece of art. And the Snyder cut is super long, and not everyone's going to want to sit through that, and that's fine. I'm just saying that I like the idea of people being more willing to kind of maybe be a little uncomfortable or to go out there to appreciate something the way that that maybe the director or the writer or whoever brought it.
So it's kind of like the lack of patience almost.
Yeah, lack of patience, being spoiled, expecting like a jump scare every 10 minutes or the movie's not scary, like
and
stuff like that.
It almost comes back to the issue you're talking about, like with the MCU now. Like they can't make a like 4 movies that are okay. Like they all have to be like killer, like hour and a half, just like hilarious, great action, great, and you're done. And I feel like the Eternals, and I'm interested to hear your opinion about it, Steve. It's a long movie, and I think it falls into the same problem that Batman versus Superman it falls into. In that it probably should have been multiple movies where like it just follows, because there's a lot of characters and there's a lot of backstories and a lot of feelings and a lot of emotions, and it's almost like they're like, we want to get this over with. That's kind of how it felt. Like we want to get this over with because there's something else we want to tell, and we don't want to spend too much time on this.
But these characters need to be here for it.
without having seen the movie, just from hearing you talk a little bit about it and from seeing like the trailers, I feel like Eternals. Actually, no. Just from having watched the trailers, my first thought was this should be a TV show.
Yes.
Yeah. It would do 1,000% better as a TV show.
Perfect. I think that's.
And it's like, right.
Yeah.
And I think.
Go ahead, Kyle.
I was going to say, I think, Steve, you hit it. The nail on the head, saying that we were spoiled just because the way that I guess technology has improved the accessibility of like media, and because you go on YouTube, it's shorter videos, and I know they're different than movies, but like the quality has increased so much on stuff that people are just randomly making, and those experiences are exciting, digestible, short. And so I think people do kind of maybe subconsciously expect that from movies too, but the medium itself lends itself better to long form storytelling.
Yeah.
And so, I think we are spoiled by the media of our time in a way.
Streaming, especially. Nothing makes me feel older right now than watching a show that still releases episodically with Keisha. And she's like, "Oh, I hate waiting." And I'm like, "Did you not grow up with this?"
Right.
Like
Saturday morning cartoons.
Like this is the norm. Netflix is the weird.
It's funny because I feel the same way, and then I think about it and I go, I remember a day when there weren't cell phones, and that was basically half of my lifetime, maybe more, and more than half of my lifetime. But like, I literally cannot imagine a life without a cell phone now. Like. Not just the ability, it's not even the ability to call somebody. It's the ability to access information anywhere I am.
Right.
At any given moment, right? Like, oh, I wonder what
and quickly. Like really quickly.
Like, oh, what's the price of this thing? Oh, like scanning thing, whatever it is. And, media has changed where we're kind of spoiled, like you said. It's like, I was just thinking about how, I was going to say Shang-Chi. So like Shang-Chi gives me hope in the future of the Marvel Universe. Because let me ask you guys a question. Other than characters that you already knew prior to Shang-Chi, name a character in Shang-Chi other than Shang-Chi.
I'll be honest, the names were kind of difficult for me to remember in general.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, I didn't internalize any of the names. I don't even remember like the area that they were trying to get into.
Yeah. Like all of it wasn't like digestible names for me.
No, and that's the point that I want to make in the sense that even though you can't think of one name other than Shang-Chi, you like you genuinely
Awkwafina was in the movie.
Caitlin was that Awkwafina's name?
Isn't that the character from Arcane?
Yes. I thought it was both.
No, I don't know.
I don't know.
But my point is, like, I'm not saying that I remember any movie the characters' names, but my point is Vander, Powder, Silco, like that. Even though a movie you don't remember anybody's name or like anything, it was good. Like it didn't need to be like stamped in your. Oh, I remember when this character did this and this character did that. It's because like when Marvel does it right, when they're just trying to like set things up and like make you feel a certain way, they're like masters at it, right? I'm excited for Shang-Chi.
Enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm excited for Shang-Chi 2. And I bet you by the end of Shang-Chi 2, I'll remember more characters. Like because it's kind of like a, what do you call it? Like a repeatable thing, you know, so you remember it. And I'll probably go back and watch Shang-Chi again. And then exposure, you know? And I think
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying. I wonder how much of my ability to enjoy something that I can't remember the names comes from watching way too much anime.
Are you saying that because you can't remember Japanese names, that you're okay with it?
Yeah, because
he doesn't know Japanese.
Because I'm used to not being able, at least in the first couple episodes, I don't always remember everyone's names. Even sometimes, depending on how easy the name is to like for me to say or to read.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching the newest episode of Attack on Titan last night, and I could not remember the name of Aaron's hometown, the one where like with the basement, and they're trying to get back to it, and that's where the Titans attacked the very first episode. Yeah. I still cannot remember the name of this town.
What's it called?
It's like Shining Shami or something. Like it's got two Shin.
Shingasa, Shin something.
Look at you.
I mean, no. My point is not the name. My point is like when something's good, it's just you don't need to have like Captain.
Oh, I agree.
You know, Captain America, this person, that person. You know, like it's just good, and I feel like you don't necessarily need to have like super memorable characters for a movie to be great. You don't have to have super memorable places to be great, and I feel like something that Eternals was like almost it was like trying to make me care about characters that I don't need to care about. Like I should just care about the conflict and the meaning of the story.
Still don't remember their names.
None of them. But it's like the opposite. Like I feel like I should remember them in order for me to really like enjoy the movie because they're all very distinct. They all have certain, you know,
I remember qualities. Their powers.
Yeah, like
what the people from Shang-Chi?
No. From
Eternals.
Like, and you know, maybe my point is kind of moot, but my point was just simple that like Marvel has the ability to like let you enjoy it and like walk away being like, that was such a great movie. And like, it almost feels like it was all like it's so temporal almost, but you just like feel like it was a great experience and you don't really need to know what happened or who the characters' names were. Like, it's just, they do a very good of invoking a feeling that, like, I remember a lot of the characters from, like, Batman versus Superman because there's a lot of characters that I know and da-da-da-da, but, like, even though it's memorable, it's not a good memory.
It's taking up space.
Yes, you know. So anyway, I just feel like there's a lot of hope for the Marvel Universe because Shang-Chi. That's really all I wanted to say. I just was wondering if you guys remembered anything.
Maybe they'll reboot the Eternals as a series.
No, they won't.
I don't think they would do that at all either.
I mean,
what if they should reboot the Inhumans? That would be nice.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody told me that like the writers from CW made the Eternals.
Oh yeah, not like, in the slightest.
Like, because that kind of feels like it belongs on the CW. You know.
Should I watch this?
You should. We should talk about it at length.
That was like the worst thing you could have said.
What I really mean is just that, like,
it's accurate.
It's just I mean, it's accurate. Like, I don't want to dissuade you. All I'm saying is that, like, it feels like it doesn't fit into the Marvel universe. Like, it doesn't feel like a Marvel movie.
There are expectations that do come with the Marvel movie. And it's one of those things, like, Eternals kind of, I guess, enlightens you to those by not having them.
Unless you know what you're missing.
Yeah. It's like, this is not a Marvel movie. I'm not entirely sure why, but I know it is, and I don't like it.
Well, if it'll make me like other movies more, maybe I will watch it.
Yeah, you'll appreciate Shang-Chi that much more. You'll be like, man, Shang-Chi was great. I can't wait till the next one.
They made this instead of Shang-Chi too?
You know, I mean, honestly, the moment I felt
Awkwafina was busy.
I felt like Eternals was going to be bad is when I saw that Angelina Jolie was in the cast. Like,
bro, I'm glad you said it and not me, because I felt the exact same way.
It almost feels like how Robert Downey Jr. is doing that YouTube series is how I feel Angelina Jolie is doing the Eternals.
I didn't feel that way at all. Was she bad in the movie?
It just feels like she's not here.
She's the budget.
Yes.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
She's here to get paid. Like, this is her
but
job.
she's just done so many cool movies, and she's a good actress, so it's hard. It's hard to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, she's a great. I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch.
Nice.
I can't speak, y'all.
Our boy.
Benedict Cumberbatch is a great actor. He's done so many incredible movies. You know, Robert Downey Jr. is a great actor. Chris Helmsworth. Well, I don't know about. Well, Chris Helmsworth. I guess he's done other movies. Not that I can really recall. I mean, Samuel L. Jackson. You know, is
who? He just plays himself.
Did you just say who?
Oh, you mean Lawrence Fishburne?
Oh, you mean Lawrence Fishburne? Oh, you mean Mace Windu? Oh, I know
Mace Windu. He didn't pull out the purple lightsaber one time in all these movies.
I always say that in the Star Wars movie, it was just Mace Windu playing Samuel L. Jackson.
I was just watching someone talk about I guess it was like the Star Wars anime, and they referenced Mace Windu in the Clone Wars, and they called him Sam Jackson playing Sam Jackson. I was like, that's pretty awesome.
Just, it's literally like they just took Sam Jackson, like, and he got sucked into a wormhole and was just in the Star Wars universe. It's like, well, I guess I'm here now.
Lightsaber.
I guess it's natural progression for me to be a Jedi Master. But yeah,
on the Jedi Council.
On the Council. He just yelled his way into position. They were like, we don't even know if he's good, but
I just got a visual of him screaming at Yoda.
Say Force one more time.
You better put me on this council, or I'm gonna But yeah, I say that to say, like, Samuel L. Jackson, even though he's clearly being paid well to be in these movies, it feels like he's in it. Like,
for sure,
in this role. I mean, just real talk. Like, Angelina Jolie feels like she's like, I'm here. Like, don't give me lines. Like, I think she had 3 lines in the whole movie. I'm just kidding. But
they wrote her character to where she wouldn't have to speak.
Yeah, much. like they really.
Is she mute or something?
No,
you'll see.
She's not mute, but you'll see. You'll see when you watch it. Like, it really feels like she was the budget. Like Kyle said, like, we know
her cheekbones were the budget.
If they only had one cheekbone, was a lot in the movie. Every shot is just only
it's from the side.
The other one's CGI.
It's cheaper to CGI in her cheekbones than to have her.
They had an intern hiding behind her with a mirror so they could sneak the other cheekbone without her knowing.
Hilarious. Like, but hey, it's reflecting off a surface, so it doesn't really count. Yeah, I feel like it really felt like, hey, like, we know this movie's not going to be great, so let's put in somebody in here that we know people will come to see and just hope for the best. You know,
that's a great point. She is, I mean, to me, like, the only really familiar face, and she's super familiar. So it breaks you out of it immediately.
It's like third wall breaking. She's almost too famous for the movie, because everybody else. I mean, Selma Hayek's in the movie, and she's super famous too, but like not on Angelina Jolie's level. And Selma Hayek's role in the movie feels appropriate for who she is in the real world as an actress, but like Angelina Jolie's character doesn't feel like that. Like, we got Paperboy from Atlanta, if you know Atlanta. We got, pretty much that's the only person that I think I know.
Just him.
Oh, that is Paperboy, isn't it?
Is there any other actor or actress that's known in that?
I didn't recognize anyone else.
Yeah, so it felt...
the Indian guy.
Yes, I know him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what I know him
him.
from, but I know but it's like that. It's like there's faces. It's like how you said it's that black guy with the pepper hair from... Not the black guy, the brown skin guy who's like...
I looked him up. His skin's even lighter than I remember.
What's his name?
His name is... you keep talking, I'll find his name.
Lin-Manuel.
Lin-Manuel.
His name's Joe Mantegna.
I don't know who that is based on the name.
Mantegna?
Yeah.
Interesting.
He was in Criminal Minds. That's what he was in. He had darker hair in Criminal Minds.
Interesting.
Now he has white hair.
What character was he in?
I think he also looked darker in Criminal Minds. Maybe that's why. He was... Shoot, man, I don't know.
No, it's okay. So...
this guy. Yeah.
But the point is, like, there are some faces that you're like, oh, I know you, but I don't know your name in that movie. And it felt like a type of movie where it's like, cool, we're going to build a cool movie and we're going to build these people up, right? Like, when you think about the first, like, Avengers movie, like, some of the people, like Chris Hemsworth, oh, who is that? Like, like, it just felt like...
He's dreamy.
He's so dreamy.
Sexiest man of the year.
It felt like they were building the characters.
Right after Paul Rudd.
And, like, they had a blank slate. Like, you had no expectations. But to have Angelina Jolie in there, it just felt like...
Yeah.
It's hard to describe. Like, she doesn't match. Like, it really feels like if they put Samuel L. Jackson in place of Paperboy, and, like, why is he here? Like, he is way too...
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like... And everybody's great actors, but it's like, it's just, some people are just...
Mm-hmm. All right, I'll watch
or
it.
Tom Cruise. Just put Tom Cruise in a role. Like,
oh my gosh.
It has to center around him because it's Tom Cruise. And
is it on Disney Plus?
Yes.
I'll watch it on my lunch break.
Yeah. The only reason why we watched it is because it finally went for free on Disney Plus, because you did have to have, like, it was barriered by something. You had to have some other subscription.
Oh, right.
It finally trickled down to Disney Plus. Like,
right.
It trickled down to the
peons.
The plebeians.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I've been watching Shaman King, but I'm willing to take a break from Shaman King to watch Eternals.
You'll only regret it for a moment.
Please do. So we're gonna wrap it up here in a second. Question for you, Shoop. I know you've been watching Shaman King. Should I start watching it?
Only if you just really want to. It's not bad at all, but it's certainly a kid's show.
Okay.
And as I say this, like I've been almost binging it. I usually would watch 2 episodes during a lunch break because it's like just under an hour. I've been sneaking in 3.
Hey,
because, it's.
I remember Shaman King, man. That's throwback.
It's for kids. It's a kids show. It has like pretty simple plots, but the last couple episodes have been kind of bonkers, man.
Okay.
Like,
you're selling me on
they
it.
play really fast and loose with death too. I've seen like 3 characters die, and it's kind of questionable whether they're going to stay dead. But I was like, whoa, they no! Did. Like, I was legit shook. Some of these episodes.
Okay.
They used to do it back then, man. They would just kill people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a super side tangent, but thank you for the information. But no, I mean, honestly, I think, MCU is technically the gold standard. I mean, they are the gold standard because they are the standard. But I'm super interested to see where they go from here. Like, the Eternals doesn't give me a lot of hope per se, like that they're gonna relive the Avengers era. I just think it's impossible. Days. Like, I think they kind of need to move on to something else. I don't know how they could, because there's so much money in there.
They might stick to series.
I mean, I'm looking forward to Loki. Whatever Loki has to do.
Loki. I really don't want to be disappointed by Loki.
Whatever. I literally was going to say the only thing that Loki can do for me at this point is disappoint me.
Snap. No.
Like,
that's a lot of pressure.
Not that it's the greatest show I've ever seen, but it's like, if they don't care, they could just go, whatever. Like,
what are the odds it's not good as season 1?
Very high.
I would
And
say
is that enough to disappoint you?
No.
I would say that
I'll be content as long as it's almost as good as season 1. It doesn't have to be
Almost
perfect.
as good.
my
Okay,
feeling
that's-
is that season 2 is going to be just as good, maybe
as
better than season 1.
Oh.
But
All right, high hopes.
But season 3
Ooh.
will be a stinker.
Ooh.
Will be a stinker.
Stinker.
It'll
Stinky.
be pandering and out of demand. So it's going to
Yeah.
lose all the luster.
Yeah. I feel like it's just going to go the route of a lot of TV series where it's just like, we should have stopped. We should have stopped. But
Yeah.
In before Loki and Loki have a baby. Loki.
Oh my gosh.
Season 2 is a sitcom.
And it's the explanation of where Crocodile Loki came from.
oh no.
Ugh.
I mean, they should do a whole series on Crocodile Loki, and
I'm for it.
I'm in. It could be.
I would watch an animated Crocodile Loki show.
It'd be good. It would just be so random. It would just, and it could be like
No
10 minute-
dialogue.
It could be 10-minute episodes where it's just like some event happen. Like it's just like Mushishi, we were talking about. Like it's just all these little short stories that aren't really important. There's no real big plot.
There's like 1 or 2 characters who are common. That'd be nice.
It'd be cool. I mean, I feel like what I think is going to
hit us up.
happen with Loki is what is going to happen with Mandalorian. Like season 1 and 2 of Mandalorian are pretty good, but like I feel like season 3 is like, we got what we needed now.
Right.
Where are you going to go? I mean, I feel like they could make good season 3, but the way that season 2 ended, it tells me like, yo, like, where do you go from here? Like, so anyway. So
Where do you Grogu from
where do you
here?
grow from here?
Oh, spoiler
Sorry,
alert!
I
You can show
no.
yourself out.
At this point, if you don't know who Grogu is, it's too late.
I mean, at this point, if you don't know who Grogu is, you're not missing anything because the name means nothing.
Yeah.
It's totally
It was definitely
It was for the fans.
It was for the fans, and it was definitely interesting when it first came out. Like, oh, like who is this? Is this Yoda? This doesn't make any sense. Like, who could this be? Is it his cousin? So
They had to deconfirm.
It's his cousin Grogu.
hey, cousin Grogu.
It's Paperboy's cousin.
Oh my goodness. I don't know if I should feel offended that you said that it's Paper.
Is that not like an Atlanta outdoor barbecue family like kind of conversation? Oh yeah, that's cousin Grogu. It's like an Addams family meets.
Well, the thing is, his name wouldn't be Grogu because like that's his name. It would be because in high school he was like real small and kind of ugly and he would eat everything. Like, man, look at Grogu, little Grogu. Hey, what up?
One person called him Grogu.
Man, you look like Grogu today, and it's over. He wore an all green outfit, got big ears. Like, it's over. It's done.
Dirty ears Grogu.
Oh snap!
Yeah, I mean, so any last words on MCU or anything like that?
I want them to bring my boy Mark Ruffalo, give him his own video I say videos, like this is YouTube.
His own video game.
So I can like and subscribe on these Hulk videos.
His own YouTube channel.
You can just pay him on Cameo if you want a video.
Just his own YouTube channel. But what were you saying? You want his own movie?
Yeah, because they only have the standalone Hulk movies from before with that other guy.
I would like to see a Hulk prequel about his time on the planet.
On the planet?
From Ragnarok.
Yeah, I know what you meant, but it's just like
I don't know it either.
His time on
all I can think
the
of,
planet.
All I can think of is Planet Hulk. That's the name of that arc. I want to see that.
Oh yeah, they can put Jeff Goldblum in there.
Have y'all noticed they're making a She-Hulk movie show, right?
Oh yeah, I forgot about it.
It's super random, but I hopefully, man, they really need to give Mark Ruffalo his time. But maybe he just doesn't care. Like he's just like, don't.
He doesn't seem like he cares. He made his money.
Yeah, he's just like, I'll be cameos. I'll pop in. I'll do the Doctor Strange and
just don't give us Smart Hulk. That's not.
No, nobody wants that.
Yeah, nobody wants that. Everybody wants big dumb Hulk.
I think a Hulk movie would have to be a prequel because it kind of feels like his character is done growing.
Well, no, I mean, I feel like something happened, right? Because in Shang-Chi,
reverted back, right?
In Shang-Chi, we see that he's not that Hulk anymore. He's not Smart Hulk.
Yeah.
So something happened. So maybe they'll make a Hulk movie to explain that.
Yeah, maybe. But either
But
way,
I guess that's a
I feel
prequel
like
in a way, right? I guess.
Well, that's not what I meant, but you're right. That could also work. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, how about you, Steve? Any last MCU? Or
give me
you
a Green Lantern show.
Mm.
A good
Marvel.
Green Lantern show.
Marvel, please make a Green Lantern show. see, you're gonna get what you asked for, but it's gonna be on the CW. So,
no, I said a good Green Lantern show.
Good is relative to the CW. Like,
they're still gonna have Ryan Reynolds.
Please he'll never do that. He knows better.
Please don't do that.
He might do it as a joke, but he wouldn't actually make a movie.
Ryan Reynolds is so much better than that now. Like,
yeah, he's learned.
He has, and thrived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the only thing that I really want from the MCU is for them to absorb the X-Men. Like,
oh yeah,
because like I've always liked the X-Men. I actually liked X-Men like First Class, and I liked the older movies like as a kid. I've liked most of the Wolverine movies in general, but I feel like the X-Men have so much potential. Like, it's already the Avengers, right? Like, it's the Avengers, but like
it's pre-built Avengers.
So it would be super cool to see the Marvel Cinematic Universe take on X-Men. Get it away from, I guess Sony owns it right now, or no, who? I don't know who owns it.
Fox.
Even worse.
I think it's Fox, right?
That would make sense if it was Fox.
So random. Yeah, I wish they could get it back because I'd love to see what they could do pulling them in to like what they have now. It'd be super cool to see that.
Yeah.
I still need to watch Days of Future Past.
Yeah, I don't even
The Fantastic Four need to come back in a better way too.
Ooh, they need to reboot.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. It'd be cool. And you know what'd be cool? If they took like those movies, like I'm going back to X-Men, but if they did like a Nightcrawler movie, a Beast movie, like, so it's like the same thing what they did with all the other characters, and just kind of had these moments where like almost like they didn't know each other and then they came together. Like, of course the Academy's there, Xavier, just have a movie called Xavier, like, I don't know. Xavier, that's a university, but like, but yeah, like I feel like they could do a really, like, just taking the Marvel writers and letting them have fun with these characters, making them witty dialogue, interesting character backstories, interesting interactions, and having a little bit of levity. I think it would be great. I
agree. They kind of did have Xavier University movie because they follow him and Magneto as like when they're younger to an extent. Class. Like, was that First Class?
Yeah, that was First Class.
Yeah, that's First Class.
I couldn't remember, but yeah, like they show a lot of their backstory.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
Let me tell you a hilarious story really quick, and then we're gonna end this podcast.
Let's hear it.
First Class. Watching First Class back in the day, with a
First Class.
Yeah, with I think I think with one of my girlfriends from the past or something way back in the day, and we were watching it and my mom was there, and like we're just watching it in the living room, and my mom is watching the movie the whole way through, right? And y'all both seen you both seen it?
No, yes, I know where this is. I think I know where this is.
You might know the story. And it gets to the very end, right? And Xavier, it's the part where Xavier gets shot, right? And he's laying on the beach or whatever, and he's saying, I can't feel my legs or whatever. And my mom is sitting there, and she goes, wait, he's a mutant? And I'm like, Mom, have you been watching the movie? She's like, yeah, I watched it all the way. She's like, oh, I didn't know he was a mutant. And I was like, Mom,
this is just a bald guy.
He's not bald.
Oh yeah, he wasn't bald yet.
Like,
that's
I was
like,
how?
He's just a guy.
I want to
go. Just a guy, yeah. Even worse.
I want to go back and watch the movie with the whole thought that Professor Xavier is not a mutant.
That's the real twist.
To see if it actually works. Like, if there's some, like, matter of fact, he never used his power. Like, some way you could always say it was some other thing happening, or like the wind did a thing, or another character. Like,
that is awesome.
It was hilarious. Just dying laughing.
I think for me, the best part is the fact that him getting shot was what made her realize.
I mean, literally the last moment, like they're panning away from the beach, like zooming out. Oh, he's a mutant, and just died laughing. It was hilarious.
Oh god,
it's hilarious.
Oh boy.
So,
I love moms.
Yes,
moms are great.
Shout out to moms, man.
Shout out to moms. Life wouldn't be interesting
homies.
without moms. So
You're right about that one.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be much of anything.
Not yet, literally.
Yeah.
So we love you, Mom. And with that story, I really do want somebody to reframe that whole movie to show it as Savior without powers. But on that being said, hey, MCU, you the realist, keep it up, just keep the gold standard. Maybe DC,
Don't mess up.
Yeah, don't mess up.
Don't choke.
Don't choke. But yeah, really. So. Yeah, man, great conversation. I hope DC gets their game together. Hey, CW. Steve, give CW another chance. We all know.
No.
Well, definitive.
We're done.
That was easy.
We're done here. But anyway, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kyle.
Give the CW one more chance and watch Eternals.
Yes.
But yeah. Always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you for being the light of my life.
Oh, okay. I don't. I'm gonna say no.
I reject.
And thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for all our fans out there. Thank you for everybody who sends us positive feedback. For those who are just learning about our show, just tuning in, we really appreciate you. We love you. We are just grateful for all our fans and everybody who listens in and shares comments.
You're breathtaking.
You're breathtaking. You're beautiful. You're the light of our lives. So thank you for everything. Y'all take it easy. And until next time.